Watch this review here, and today I'll be doing something a little different. Rather than discuss a figure, we'll be taking a look at a booster pack from Magic the Gathering, the Dark Ascension expansion. I believe they're called expansions, I can't remember. Now, it's been a good number of years since I've played Magic the Gathering. Just to preface this a little bit, I was kind of into the game between the years 1999 to about 2005, although I was only really actively playing from maybe 99 to 2003 or 2004. A large extent I kind of fell out of it because not as many people were playing it in my area, and then, these things are pretty expensive. It kind of adds up after a while. But I would have gotten into the hobby quite a bit sooner just because it aligns so many of my interests, but I didn't really have a lot of players in my area at that point, and the first cards that I picked up were from like Homeland, which, although it's kind of like rich in like themes and stuff and the art's decent, it's actually a pretty terrible expansion if memory serves. But kept seeing these packs in stores with this really kick-ass looking werewolf on the cover, and learned that they were doing werewolves for this expansion, and you know what? Could not resist. So this is actually the first booster pack that I've had in quite a while, and let's just quickly go through it, and maybe I'll discuss some of the ways the game has changed since I left it. First up here we have Torch Fiend, a common. Now, it's actually kind of a so-so creature. A 2/1 for 2 with this ability really isn't bad. Again, it's mostly the ability here that kind of makes him worthwhile. More interesting here is the creature type Devil. Back when I was still into it, there's sort of a big hubbub about the fact that they were labeling stuff that could have been demons, horrors, and other stuff just because they felt that, Wizards of the Coast was being overly sensitive with the whole demon devil title. So it's actually kind of interesting that they've gone ahead and some cards are even labeled devil rather than demon. But hey, art in this kind of sucks. Flavor text. Flavor text was also one of the big areas where I kind of hated the game as it went on because they just really got crappy. Next up, I got Grave Purge. I really like the art in this, with these zombies just crawling out of the grave. The actual card is sort of decent looking. While I wouldn't call the effect spectacular, basically whichever card you put on top, you will get in your hand immediately, so you can either use this to just get the one card you need, or just retrieve a whole bunch. Again, really like the art. Nephalia, I believe this is pronounced sea kite. Now, while the actual stats and stuff are kind of crappy for the price, it does seem sort of worthwhile just for having the flash ability here. You can play this card at any time. Well, you can summon him as an instant, and he stays in play after. So I guess that probably works in control decks and stuff, where you like to keep the mana open, and during your opponent's end phase you can just play that. Wild Hunger. Really like the art in this, and art was one of the huge things that I loved about the game. But yeah, it doesn't seem like a really spectacular card. Ray of Revelation. I wonder if this is a redo of something that was previously put out when they first started doing cards with flashback. Honestly, not so much a fan of this because it doesn't also target artifacts, and I believe artifacts typically have been more prevalent than enchantments, but I guess it's pretty decent for a sideboard or what have you. Walking Wrath Torturer. The art in this kind of sucks. I don't think the creature is all that great looking either. The ability is kind of so-so. I don't know, I think he costs too much for what he does. Heavy Madoc, 3 mana. Now artifacts were just sort of starting to come around the time that I was actually quitting Magic, so I never really so much used any of them. And I don't think that this is a particularly great one. Young Wolf, I love the art in this. Pretty decent looking card. Has a new keyword, I think it's probably specific to the block or whatever. Basically, I guess when he'd ordinarily die, he just comes back with a +1/+1 counter, which I guess is kind of neat, although seems like a sort of underpowered card regardless. Evolving Wilds, a land that you can sacrifice to bring in a basic land tapped. I don't know, it doesn't seem as useful as... I guess it's kind of decent just because it also does deck thinning at the same time. Deadly Allure, my first of my uncommons. Now, I'm not sure what the deal with this is. I guess they just wanted an alluring character and stuff just to play off the name, but as far as things go, I mean, that doesn't really look deadly. Unless she's killing the snake somehow. I don't think the snake's alluring her. Probably overthinking this, but for 1 black mana, a target creature gains Death Touch until end of turn. Now, that's one of the big things that I guess must have happened in the time that I was playing. Death Touch, I believe, is a keyword to take the place of whenever a creature does combat damage. I guess it destroys the other creature at end of turn, or sorry, end of combat phase, I believe. I mean, it doesn't seem like that great of a card, but hey, whatever. This is probably moderately useful. This one's the first one that I'm sort of mildly excited for. Avacyn's Collar. For, let's see, 1 mana artifact equipment. The equipped creature gains +1 with Vigilance, which Vigilance means that when your creature attacks, it doesn't have to tap. Meaning it's also able to block, and that's pretty decent. And then the sort of plus here is if the creature dies, if it's a human, you also get a 1/1 spirit, which is pretty cool. Wake Dancer, and I guess Morbid's probably another block-themed keyword. Honestly, not that hyped up for this one. Especially because I guess you'd have to play it after your combat phase or whatever to get the benefit from that. Well, I think typically, for competitive players did hold off until the end of their combat phase to actually summon stuff. Now my rare is Call to the Kindred. Honestly, this is probably the most exciting thing from the pack. It's an aura, which I guess back in my day it was called Enchant Creature. That's basically what it is. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you can look at the top 5 cards of your library. If the creature type that's enchanting shares a type with one of those cards, you can put one of them onto play. Although they call it the battlefield now. I'm not sure what the deal with that is. Meh. And the rest go to the bottom of the library. Only downside to that is, I'm not sure how the whole tribal themes or stuff will be going with this, but traditionally blue decks didn't have so much of a creature orientation, so I mean, any other color would probably be pretty decent. Now, besides that, because it also gives us a little lore card. They weren't doing this back when I quit. guess it's kind of neat just for an additional story or what have you. And then when I first pulled this out, I was just thinking it was like a checklist or something, but I guess they have double-faced cards now. Right towards the end of when I was quitting, they'd have, I think it was during Kamigawa or whatever, you'd have creatures that would sort of, I guess, evolve or level up or whatever, and they split the card kind of in half, with the top half having the first form and like the cost and everything. The bottom half, when you meet the condition, it would transform and you'd flip the card over and they'd have that. But instead of doing that, which actually was something similar to what they used to do with was it Judgment, or I can't remember what they started doing, but they had split cards too before that, when it'd be cut right down the middle, and then you'd have like what looked to be like a normal card except for smaller on both sides. They were actually really neat, and you could choose to play either one half of that. But this is, I guess, an entirely different approach for everything, where you play this, it goes into play as this creature. Then if it meets the condition, which in this case, at the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, which, I don't know, probably doesn't happen a hell of a lot, it transforms into the Moon-Scarred Werewolf, meaning I did get one werewolf for the pack, which I'm kind of happy about. Only downside, kind of crappy creature here. I mean, yeah, it's nice that he's a mana producer and all, but that's kind of got an easy condition to transform it back into its weaker form. Previously, in I still think it was Kamigawa, where they introduced the mechanic, once they transform, they've sort of transformed for good. So it's kind of an interesting and different approach. All in all, I don't know, I think I got some decent-ish draws. Wouldn't call anything really spectacular, but I don't know what the current environment and stuff is like. And no, I probably don't plan on actually getting back into Magic. I'm not sure if I'll be buying any more packs in the near future, but it's just kind of cool to pick something up that you're interested in a while ago and just seeing how things changed, especially because I don't really follow the official website anymore. Fun fact, watch this review, WTR did enter in the first apprentice search, it's called the Great Design Search, where Wizards of the Coast had this big contest thing where, you kind of competed for a spot in their internship team for the designers. I didn't actually make it very far. I failed in the quiz portion. Started off with an essay, which, everybody basically passed, and then they had this one really long quiz where choices had to sort of match up with what the design people would have done. Although even the design people weren't all 35 or 35 on their agreement. But you had to do at least, I think it was 30 of 35 to make it to the round after, which was the actual design rounds. I think I had like a 27 or 28. So I mean, I was close, but nowhere near in there. I think the highest person was a 33 or 35. At any rate, the game has changed quite a bit since I left it, and that's probably one of the bigger reasons why I don't think I'd ever go back to it, in addition to, it's $4 a booster pack and all that, and although you can build cheaper and stuff, it just doesn't have the same appeal that it once did. But this has been a look at, I know I spent like 15 minutes to look at a 15 card pack, so basically a minute per card, although I didn't really go into all that much detail per. But it's been a look at a booster pack from Dark Ascension, the Magic the Gathering expansion. I don't even know what this block is called. But yeah, until next time, folks.